Her smile, my strength, the first time I saw her smile. I was standing in a crowded hospital waiting room, my hands trembling and my heart heavy with uncertainty. I didn't know her then, didn't even know her name. But that smile cut through the chaos around me like sunlight breaking through a storm. Wasn't perfect. It wasn't the kind of smile you see in magazines, but it was real. It was warm, fragile, and yet so incredibly powerful. I had no idea then that one day that same smile would keep me from falling apart. I met Aisha 3 weeks later, purely by chance. A younger sister had insisted I accompany her to a community art class she'd joined just to get me out of the house. Life at that time had been heavy. I had lost my job. My father was battling heart problems. And every day felt like I was walking through a fog I couldn't escape. I had no energy for people, no patience for small talk. But there she was again. The girl from the hospital waiting room, painting a canvas with colors so bright they almost felt out of place in that dim little studio. She caught me staring, and instead of looking away, she smiled again, that same smile. We started talking after class. I learned she volunteered at the hospital, helping children with cancer. She wasn't a nurse. She was a doctor. She was just someone who wanted to bring light to people's darkest days. She told me she believed in borrowed strength. That sometimes, when you don't have enough strength of your own, you can borrow it from someone else's smile, kindness, or belief in you. I didn't tell her then, but I had already started borrowing from her. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, we became friends. She had this way of making you feel like the most important person in the room. She listened, really listened, and never once made you feel small for your fears or failures. But behind her laughter and easy kindness, I began to notice moments when her gaze would drift. Her shoulders would drop, and she'd go quiet. One evening, I found out why. We were sitting in a park sharing tea from a roadside stall when she told me she had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease 2 years ago. "Some days are fine," she said softly, "and some days my body feels like it's fighting me from the inside." She shrugged as if it were no big deal, but I could see the pain flicker in her eyes. I asked her how she managed to stay so cheerful. She smiled, that same unshakable smile, and said, "Because I know my time is limited, and I refuse to spend it in bitterness. If I can make even one person's day lighter, then my own pain is worth it." I didn't know what to say. All I knew was that this woman, who had every reason to hide away in self-pity, was choosing to be a light for others. And in that moment, I realized something. She wasn't just inspiring me, she was saving me. The months that followed were a blur of shared moments, painting together in that art studio, visiting the hospital children, late-night conversations about dreams and fears. She became my anchor without even trying. Whenever I felt like giving up on my job search, she reminded me of my worth. When my father's health took another bad turn, she was there, holding my mother's hand in the waiting room as if she were family. And then came the day I dreaded most. Her illness worsened. She had to be admitted to the hospital, and this time she wasn't the volunteer. She was the patient. I visited her every day. Even hooked up to 4 lines, pale and tired, she would still greet me with that smile. One evening, when her breathing was labored, she whispered, "Don't stop living because of me. Promise me that." I promised. But deep down, I didn't know how I would keep that promise without her. The last time I saw her was a quiet afternoon. She had asked me to bring her some paintbrushes, even though she could barely lift her hand. She wanted to finish a small painting for one of the hospital kids. I helped her guide the brush across the canvas. Her strokes were shaky, but her eyes lit up. "It's not perfect," she said, "but it's mine." 2 days later, she was gone. The world felt emptier without her. Weeks I went through life on autopilot, just existing. But then I remembered her words about borrowed strength. She had given me so much of hers. Now it was my turn to give it to others. I started volunteering at the hospital. I went back to the art studio, found a job I actually enjoyed, helping people navigate career changes, something I had struggled with myself. And whenever I felt like the weight of the world was too much, I thought of her smile. That smile wasn't just hers anymore. It was a gift she had passed on to me. Even now, years later, I still see her in the faces of the people I help. And I realized the truth. Her smile wasn't just her strength. It became mine, and through me, it will keep living on. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do for someone is simply smile.